Okay, good morning. The shir is sponsored for Rafua Shlema for Ben ציון, Raubin, Ben Shiindel. Okay, Reish Mem Aleph. To conclude Hilchot Tzniut, Reish Mem Aleph, Seif Aleph. Echad me'advarim shesonei HaKadosh Baruch Hu. One of the things that HaKadosh Baruch Hu hate, because HaKadosh Baruch Hu loves when we behave with Nikiyut Kedusha, as the Mishnah Berurah points out, being clean and kadosh. So what is one of the examples is Hamashtin Bifnei Mitato Aram. If a person urinates in front of his bed, next to his bed, that's what it means. Lav dafka, if one is naked or not, either way. Hamashtin Lifnei Mitato Aram, when is it a problem? So it says, first of all, it's Mevi Lidei Aniyut, it leads to poverty. Below Amran Elada Mahadar Apela Puria, when you are facing your bed. Aval levaraya leitlanba, but if you do it far away from the bed, it's no big deal.
Okay, just to jump in for a little second, because there's some puzzle books. Hundreds of years ago, we did not have bathrooms. Most people had jars or
basins,
cups, and so on and so forth. And instead of
it wasn't so easy to go. And so typically these things were, kept by the bed or in the room or so on and so forth. And then you would dump it out the next day or so on and so forth. So historical perspective.
On now, obviously we're not going to be urinating by our beds.
Right. Udimahader ape lepuria nami l'arman ela be'ara. It is only a problem if you do it on the floor and it stays there. But if you put it in a cup and especially cover it up, so this way you can speak in Divrei Torah, it is not a problem. Okay, if it's in a bucket, it's not a lack of kedusha or nikiyut, but you want to have it covered for the sake of tznius, for saying for Torah, for learning Torah and brachos. Obviously, this is not recommended behavior nowadays. Unless, unfortunately, one person is sick, then they should do it in a bottle, and that's l'chatchila not a problem.
Catheters also not a problem.
Catheters are not a problem too. In fact, we learned that earlier. Very good. Okay, we are starting Hilchot Shabbos today. Right now, the Mishnah Berurah has a very short, very good hakdama. Just a quick, brief synopsis taken from the Mishnah Berurah's hakdama. Is again not these are all things that we already know and have heard before, but Hilchot Shabbos, the mitzvah of Shabbos, is one of the most important mitzvahs that we have. Chazal say, Kol hamishamer et Shabbat ki'ilu mekayim kol haTorah, v'kol hamachalel haShabbat ki'ilu kafar b'kol haTorah kula. If you keep or disgrace the Shabbos, it's if it's keneged the entire Torah. And why? Because this is one of the shoresh of our emunah. It's we all know it's one of the main top priority mitzvot, and it's this one in particular is really the shoresh of our emunah. It's all Shabbos is all about the two main fundamentals of our emunah. Two of the biggest, strongest fundamentals is that HaKadosh Baruch Hu created the world. He brought us into this world, created it for us with a purpose. And He continues to run the world. He continues to be involved in the world. And really all mitzvot stem from there. He gives a nice analogy how each one of our, it's discussed at length, especially in some Sifrei Kabbalah, Shari Kedusha is one of them, Orach Chaim Vital, that every one of our limbs, every part of our body is keneged a mitzvah. Especially such as the positive 248. We have so many limbs we have, at least the men, and it's connected to 248 positive commandments. So he points out that Shabbos is ki'ilu connected the head or the heart. When you get up into Shemayim, if you weren't Makayim one of the mitzvahs, so you'll be missing a finger. It's unfortunate, but you'll be basically looking normal. But if you're missing your head or your heart, that's not something you want to be missing. So that's as an analogy. Okay, now let's start learning Hilchot Shabbos. Reish Mem Bet. Lizaher Bichvod Shavat. Reish Mem Bet. Seif Aleph. Afilu mi shetzarich la'acherim, even if a person needs help from other people financially for Shabbos, im yesh lo me'at mishelo tzarich lezarez atzmo lechaber et haShabbat. If a person could help himself to work a little bit extra to have money to put food on the table, or to save some money to put food on the table, for the kavod Shabbos in particular, one should do so. V'lo amru, so here, let's keep reading, and then we'll take a step back to understand this better. V'lo amru, Chazal only said the following words: Aseh Shabbatcha chol v'al titztarech labriot. Make your Shabbos chol. In other words, eat the same way you eat on Shabbos as you eat during the week, a very simple meal, and don't ask help from other people. That's only lemi shehasha'a dechuka lo biyoter. That's for somebody who really doesn't have means, and the person doesn't have extra money to put food on the table. So you don't ask, and you do your best to save a little bit from the little bit that you have during the week, so that you have more on Shabbat. Okay, so the Mishnah Berurah explains this very well. He says there are basically, you can break it up into approximately 3 categories. So a person who could get by and could have just enough food to eat on his own without asking for help during the week and for Shabbos, he shouldn't ask for a favor, and he shouldn't take any tzedakah. Right? If a person has a little bit of extra money, then he should, perhaps a chiyuv, a person definitely should spend that little extra money to have something extra for Shabbos. Whatever that is for you. For you that extra thing is a kugel, he says it should be, probably refers to a protein. His example is a very simple dish of fish. So then, whatever you can do to make it a little better than the rest of the week, if you can do that, then you must do that. If a person can honor it with much more, then that's even better. Okay. He quotes famous from Chazal that a person, it's already set min hashamayim that what a person is going to have all year from Rosh Hashanah. And they say when it comes to spending extra for the sake of Shabbos food and for Talmud Torah, that's whatever is needed to expenses for learning Torah, that's out of the box. That's out of whatever Hashem decided for you, and Hashem will increase what you earn if you exert yourself and spend a little extra in those 2 areas. So that's okay. So now, if a person has enough all by himself, either nothing extra or a lot extra, and then you have this other category that if a person can't make it himself. Now, by the way, if a person could only afford 2 meals, so he says it's better just to have 2 meals and not get help. But what if a person can't get by? He's forced to ask for help, and he needs to get some from a friend or tzedakah. Once you're on that level where you don't have enough by yourself and you're already getting help, then there's a chiyuv on the gabei tzedakah to give you enough for 3 meals, and at least, again, that same chasa deharsana mentioned, a little dish of fish, a little something extra, so that once you're already getting help, so get the help. And your meal on Shabbos should be at least 1 notch higher than during the week. Okay. Interesting question if you're allowed to borrow money, take a loan, with ribis or not. So there is a discussion in the poskim. There is, Lamaisa, it seems to be a das yachi that you're allowed to even, and it's not the recommended psak of even on ribis deraisa. But Lamaisa, some poskim point out it's only ribis, only if you're only allowed to pay ribis if it's mutter lechatchila, such as from a goy, this is any derech heter from a Jew. Rav Yosef says that even ribis derabanan you're allowed to. Okay. Let's continue. A couple other examples that we know about for Kavod Shabbos is taking a bath or a shower, wearing freshly clean clothing we're about to see, And where some say you should have Shabbos shoes, some say you don't need to, but if you have Shabbos shoes, you should polish them. Kol kamina gamakom. Okay. Umitakanat Ezra. Shihiyu mechabsim begadim b'chamishi b'Shabbat b'mnei kavod Shabbat. So there's a takana from Ezra in the Gemara where it says one has to do laundry on Thursdays. Why? In order to make sure you have clean, fresh clothing for Shabbos. That's very important. So they say you shouldn't be wearing the same shirt or the same clothing week after week after week. If it's very clean, probably 2 weeks in a row is no big deal, but it depends, if it's wrinkled, not wrinkled, etc. If it feels fresh or not. Okay. Let's see.
Historical reference?
Yeah?
So in those days, it wasn't like we have so much clothes. They had very, very limited number of clothing. So
right. They probably only had 1 or 2 shirts.
1 or 2 shirts, togas, or whatever it was.
Exactly.
Unbelievably wealthy. So if you didn't want to launder it on Thursday, then it wouldn't be ready for Shabbos.
Exactly. So the other thing historical is we're about to get to. We're here already. Is their laundry in those days, they didn't have washing machines. So it would be a struggle, and it would take them hours. So that's why he made a takana that it must be done on Thursday dafka and not, you want it on Thursday, especially if you only have one shirt. Because if you wash it on Sunday, it would be dirty by Friday. The other thing is, dafka, it should be on Thursday, so that on Friday, so most explain that it's takana included that you shouldn't be doing laundry. What level leikuva is a question, but you shouldn't be doing laundry on Friday. So nowadays, what's the din? So there are some that say you're not supposed to do laundry on Friday. There are others who say you are allowed to. For example, Rav Avad Yosef says, lechatchila, I don't know if I would use the word lechatchila, but he says if you need to do laundry on Friday, it's not a problem. You have a machine, it's no big deal. Shmir Shabbos Kil Chasa, for example, quotes, Adif, it's preferable not to do on Friday. But by definition, that means if you need it to be done then it's okay. But obviously, Chachamena Barosha, you don't want to be spending your whole day doing laundry on Friday and not have time to do laundry, to not have time to prepare for Shabbos. Okay. Haga. No hagin lalush kadei shiur chala b'bay lasot mehem lechamim nimtzoa aleim b'shabbat v'yom tov. It's an important minhag to make your own fresh challah. And in those days it was a much bigger deal than nowadays, because nowadays we have bakeries and it's very easy to get a fresh loaf of challah. But still, it's an important minhag. Okay. V'hu mikvod Shabbat v'yom tov v'ein leshanot. Okay, one should not make, should try not to not make challah. Tov. There's a custom to have some kind of a dish where you have, I guess, dough bread on top and on bottom of it. Zeicher laman she'amachusa lamal lamata. Zeicher laman because it was covered with dew above and below. V'lo ra'iti lachosh lazeh. And I did not see anyone who was careful with this.
Eat something with like a sandwich?
I don't know, maybe a baraka. I don't know. Probably more like a baraka what he's talking about, the custom. Okay. But we don't have this custom as far as I know. Rish Mem Gimel. Okay, so there's going to be a few halachot as far as making money on Shabbos with, or having your property make money for you, or renting it out to a non-Jew. I'll just suffice to say, hopefully we're going to learn the general klalim well, hopefully, but the Lamaisa specifics in each individual case is quite complex, just to factor in everything. And then, as the Mishnah Berurah points out on the last line of the page, that really everything is dependent on, as we'll see, everything is completely dependent upon the minhag hamakom, how things are done, to avoid marit ayin. We don't want people to think that you're working on Shabbos, or you rented somebody out just to work for you just on Shabbos. So it really depends on what's considered normal. When are people going to be, when is it that people are going to see what's going on and think the worst, that you're being mechal Shabbos. Okay. Aleph, Reish Mem Gimel, Seif Aleph. Lo yaskir adam merchat shelo le'en Yehudi. Person's not allowed to rent out his bathhouse to a non-Jew all year. V'pnei shenikra al shemo, because everybody is going to think that it's yours. It probably has your name on it, a big sign. So everyone knows it belongs to you. You're the Orthodox Jew, and they see that it's being used. Ve'eino Yehudi oseh melacha bo b'Shabbat, and it's open and running and being used on Shabbos. Yistam merchatz alav la'arisuta, because generally speaking, a merchatz is not divided with a non-Jew with this, what we call an aris or arisut. What is that? Here, let's finish the words. Alav la'arisuta avid. It's not done in this manner usually. So what are we talking about? Anytime there's a few different ways that people will categorize as three basic ways how people are paid. One is what we call an arisut or an aris. He makes a percentage of what he does. You give him a field or a merchatz, bathhouse, and he works it, and whatever he makes from it, he gives you a percentage, and he keeps a percentage. So he's really benefiting and working for himself, and whatever profit comes out is completely, directly a benefit. Every penny he earns, the profit, he gets in his pocket, a percentage of it. So he's doing it for his own benefit. Schirut, obviously, so this is when a person is hired either by, just as basically it's a salary per day, per week, per year. So the person is obviously working for himself, but he's also for his own benefit, but he's also working for your benefit if you hired him to specifically work on Shabbat. An employee, it's a normal employee really. What do you mean? Every employee makes his money. He's getting a wage per hour, per day. Not a percentage. Yeah, we'll discuss after. An aris is when it's a percentage. And a schirut is more of a set salary. Kablanut is when he's getting paid by the job. Lav dafka job, but basically that's the concept. It's his own personal project, and he does it on in his own time. That's the general concept of a kablanut. So it's on his own time, and it's his own project, and he does it when he wants to, and he makes all the profit as well. Okay, but we'll see with the examples. Okay. So ve'amri shekol harevach shel Yisrael. So in the case of the merchat, since the people are going to think it's all yours, and you hired an employee just to work there for you, all the profit goes to you, and you're just paying him a little salary. V'sachar te'eni Yehudi b'kach v'kach liyom. And you pay him this amount per day. So that's marit ayin. It might be if it is an aris, so it's really mutter minat. It's really mutter as far as Hilchos SHABBOS are concerned. But the problem is we have an issue of marit ayin. Okay. And it looked like he's doing it specifically for the Jew on Shabbos. Okay. Aval sadeh mutar. But if it's a field, then it's mutar. Why? Shekein derech lekabel sadeh be'arisut. Because it's normal. It's a question if it's, for it to be considered normal, is it the majority or just normal? But, okay. It's normal for it to be done with arisut, and therefore, because we know arisut itself is mutter lechatchila, as long as people know that it's done v'arisut, where he's making a percentage. Even though they know, since it's normal to do it v'arisut, they'll assume that the Jew's not going to do an avera, and of course he took it v'arisut, especially if it's the rov. And he's working on his own time for his own benefit, etc. Orach Chaim just points out, your idea issue is in general it's usher to rent out a field to a non-Jew in Eretz Yisrael. So this halacha is more for chutz la'aretz. That prat, the concept that what we're talking about is 100% the same. That it depends if it's normal or not normal for it to be a sechir for the day or arisut. Okay. The tanur Dino kemerchatz. When you're renting, this I haven't seen, but in those cases, when you're renting out an oven, there's the din of a merchatz, and Orach Chaim. If it's a mill, the dinam is for a field. Again, you just look at what's normal and what's the custom in your days per item. Okay. Right. Again, and just to clarify, to ask a Jew, a non-Jew, to work for you specifically on Shabbat, so that's going to be an Isur, Gamur, and since he's not your slave, it's Isur Derabanan. Okay. Tet, Haga. Haga. ואף על פי שלא לקחה אין יהודי, רק לשליש או לרביע, ויש לישראל הנע במה שאין יהודי עובד בשבת, שרי. Whenever a non-Jew works your field and is done as an aris, where he makes his percentage, it's mutter. Even though the Jew also makes the other percentage. It could be a bigger percentage. It doesn't matter. Even if the Jew is making money, right? The Eina Yehudi Adaita the Nafshi Aved. You didn't tell him to work specifically on Shabbat. He's working on Shabbat because he wants to. He knows that every day he works, he'll make more money. So he's doing it for himself, and you didn't hire him. You didn't tell him to do it on Shabbat. And there's no Marit Ayin in this case, since it's normal. Right? And as we mentioned, whenever a person has a business that needs to be open on Shabbat, that's important to have a Sheilat Rav, how to deal with the business being open on Shabbos. But I think we'll avoid that. The many scenarios we will avoid discussing. We're getting the basic principle. Okay. Bet. I think we're ready to move on. Yep. Afilu merchatz o tanur. Even אם מרחץ או התנור, אם נזכירם שנה אחר שנה ונתפרסם הדבר ידי כך שאין דרכו לזכור פועלים אלא להזכירם, וכן ימנהג רוב אנשי אותו המקום להזכירם או לתנם באריסות, מותר להזכירם לאין יהודי או לתנם לו באריסות. So, even though we said by a merchatz and a tanur that in general, in those days it was asur, because people assumed you were hiring him for the day. So here nowadays, if again the minhag changes, or usually it's done barisut, but you put up a big sign and you put it in the papers, and everybody knows that in your case it's clear that you're doing it. You rented it out to the non-Jew for the whole year. It's like leasing a merchatz for the whole year. It's not yours, or whatever it is, for the week, for the month. It doesn't matter. And therefore, if it's known that they're doing a be'arisut, so then again, it's okay. Haga, v'afilu makam ha'asur. Im ein ha'merchatz ha'tanur she'Yisrael rak sachara mein Yehudi, v'chazar v'yiskir mein Yehudi shari. Also, if a place it's asur usually, if the minhag would be asur, and it's not yours, it doesn't have your name on it. Right? No one knows it's yours, but you leased it from a non-Jew. Now you can sublease it to another non-Jew because it never had your name on it, unless it does get your name on it. Then Shema Yisrael Nikra Alav. Right? Basically, the principle I think is pretty straightforward, and then how it flows in each case, it's just you just see how it flows. Now, what if a person has a merchatz in his private apartment? Nobody uses it. No one knows that you even have it. Only the people in your own personal house have it. And you know that you hired a non-Jew to turn it on, to take care of it. And you didn't tell him specifically to do it for you for Shabbos. So then, Shari it's mutter. Now, there are cases if a person did hire someone and they weren't supposed to, it's midarabanan, it's asr. In those cases, then what do? You already hired him and you already made money out of the deal. What do you do with the money? Can you keep it or not? So, yesh omrim shesacharo mutar, yesh omrim she'asur. So some say it's mutar, some say it's asur to keep the money. V'chen ikar. So the Ramah concludes that one should not keep the money. The Kaf HaChaim makes it real simple. You shouldn't keep the money in either case where it was asur midin. We're talking about dinei derabanan, but either if it was asur midin or just marit ayin. The Mishnah Berurah says that generally the Ashkenazi poskim, if it's only an asur of marit ayin, they say go ahead, it's okay, keep quiet, just keep the money, it's okay. But if If it was Medina Aser, and you hired him specifically for the day, then that's too far, and then you have to not keep the profit for yourself. Okay, maybe we'll just start. Reish Mem Daled. Reish Mem Daled. Aleph. Posek Adam Perush Matna. You make a deal, condition with somebody. You give him a job and you tell him you're going to give him X amount of money for doing the job. Now the non-Jew is doing it for himself, even though he's doing it for himself, mutar. This is a case of kablanut. You give a job for the guy to do, for the non-Jew to do, and whether it gets done in 1 hour or in a week, he gets paid the same. But whatever, the main point is, you don't have him do the work for you on Shabbat. You make sure if you're going to give in your clothing to the cleaners, you give it to him earlier, this is in America really, Chutz La'aretz, non-Jews, you give it to him Erev Shabbos. You can't give it to him the minute before Shabbos and pick it up the minute after Shabbos, because then you're obviously making him do it for you on Shabbos. So in these cases, one is that okay, but if it's done quietly. That it's not known that he's doing this work for you on Shabbos. He can do it on his time, right? He's allowed to kablanut. He can do it on his time, but it can't be done where it's obvious to everybody he's doing it for you on Shabbos. Maybe he's doing it for himself. Maybe he's doing it for somebody else. Because if people see a non-Jew doing it specifically for you on Shabbos, they might think that you told him to do it for him specifically on Shabbos. Therefore, person hires a contractor to work for him, or whatever, someone to fix his house, work on his wall, or to be as a gardener, trim his leaves, whatever. If it would be done in the city where people can see, it's asur, because people are going to see that he's working on your house. He's going to think that you got hired for him on your house. But if it was, okay, let's keep reading. Okay. Right. Well, yeah. Even if you're living among non-Jews. So whoever is there, or guests who come visit you in your city, might think that it's might come and see what's going on and think you're doing an Isser on Shabbos. Maybe you hired him. They don't know that you did it b'kablanut, because it's on your property. But if you have a property, a house in the middle of nowhere, or you have a field outside the tchum, and you want them to work it for you, or to do something there for you, then it's okay, as long as it's done derech heter, like kablanut, or arisut. V'gam ein ir acheret b'toch tchum shel makom she'osim bo hamalacha, it's outside the tchum, or somewhere might be there, then it's mutar, then it's not going to be a problem, there's no issue of marit ayin, right? As long as you did everything okay, right? There's two main things you have to worry about, is not to do an isser of hiring a non-Jew to work for you specifically on Shabbat, and not to be careful of marit ayin.